4 years ago, he thought I was stupid but had a baby with me anyway. I was afraid he would force me to have an abortion, so I ran away with my belly. 4 years later, he found us, mother and daughter, trying to make up for what happened before. On April Fool's Day, he went to rescue his mistress who had been kidnapped. When my daughter died in the hospital and didn't get to see her dad one last time, Oliver cried and apologized to me, begging me not to leave him. Later, when his organs failed, he realized I wasn't a fool. I saw my fiancé square copyright again, whom I hadn't seen in 4 years. At that time, I was lying on the ground. Surrounded by blood, he anxiously shouted my name, Emily, I finally found you. I've been thinking about you all these years. I didn't mean to bump into you. Hurry up, I'll take you to the hospital. He definitely didn't mean to do it, but I intentionally wanted to cause trouble. Sophie got sick and spent a lot of money. I ran out of money before I came up with this idea. So when I saw the white limousine, I rushed over without hesitation. I didn't expect the car to go so fast. It felt like my heart was going to jump out of my chest. If something happened to me, who would take care of my daughter in the hospital? I was even more surprised that the person who came down was the man I've been avoiding for the past 4 years. No, you've got the wrong person. I'm not Emily. I'm covered in blood and still trying to struggle on the ground. Don't go. You really don't want to see me that badly. Oliver's voice had a crying tone in it while I was bleeding and trying to crawl forward. What compensation money? I don't even dare to think about it anymore. I just want to stay away from Oliver and would rather not see him. There's a wound on my body that bleeds a long trail of blood. I'm like a monster with no strength. I can barely hold on. Before I passed out, I heard him cry out in agony, Emily. My eyelids grew heavier and heavier. Life was slowly passing me by. 4 years ago, Oliver brought home a very attractive female. Isabella is the one I love in my heart. I only feel for you like a brother and sister. Emily, can our engagement be canceled? Isabella's highly educated and a supermodel. Any boy who sees her has a heart attack. I'm always doing stupid things like wetting the bed and drooling and wrestling and feeling unworthy of Oliver. Actually, I wasn't born stupid. When I was 5, I saw my mom and dad murdered. I was so shaken up that I was a little less than normal and became as confused as I am now. Oliver's parents adopted me as a martyr's daughter. They were very fond of me and engaged Oliver and me to be married. However, Oliver grew up doting on me as if I were his silly little sister. When I accidentally wet my pants, Oliver changed them himself. When I got my clothes dirty while eating, he scratched my nose with his hand and laughed at how stupid I was. I often fell down while walking, and he always carried me on his back, especially worried about me getting hurt. I actually wanted to break off my engagement with him so that he could be with his beloved. But one night, he got drunk and carried me in his arms. I didn't realize that later on, my stomach got bigger, and I was pregnant with a little baby. The way Oliver looked at me slowly became cold and disdainful. Isabella secretly played me recordings of what he said when he was drunk. Emily was a fool. What if she had a stupid baby? I don't want life to be a mistake. Or let Emily get the baby aborted. I was so scared I cried. I could feel the baby moving in my stomach. It was my only family in this world, and I didn't want to let it go. So I packed my bags overnight and left New York quickly. Even though I was wrong about a lot of things, a mother's love is not a problem. I took care of Sophie all by myself and raised her until she was 4 years old. That day I went out to work and Sophie was at home when she accidentally fell down the stairs. The doctor said she had a bruise on her head, and if left untreated, she could become mentally challenged. Mentally challenged, Sophie could become mentally challenged, and I realized how serious it would be, so I would do everything I could to help her heal. It seemed that God was deliberately screwing with me by making me meet Oliver. That day, Oliver drove so fast because he was in a hurry to go to his date with Isabella. Maybe this is what I was destined to experience. I woke up in the hospital room and saw cold medical equipment all around me. The doctor sighs and says that MTK's Emily is not doing well with a broken right leg and a severe concussion. Oliver asked in a shaky voice, when will she wake up? The doctor didn't dare to give a definite time. I continued to pretend I was sleeping and finally waited for an opportunity to escape. When no one was in the ward, I limped and slipped out in the hallway. Oliver shouted in panic, Emily, where are you going? As soon as I heard his voice. It was like seeing a ghost in my mind, and I immediately ran faster. I was worried that he didn't like me being with Sophie, and thought I was just an idiot? Oliver grabbed my arm with a nervous look in his eyes. Emily, you're still recovering, don't move. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have bothered you. Can you let me off the hook? He seemed a little shocked at my words and didn't react for a moment. Taking this opportunity, I hurriedly ran back to my house. Sophie cried so hard, Mom. Where did you go? I was so scared. I hugged her tightly, tears slowly dripping down on her hair. I'm sorry, Mommy doesn't have any money to help you with your treatment. At that moment, the door of the room was kicked open and Oliver's figure appeared in the doorway. I froze in shock, my pants grew wet and my face was red as an apple. How do you live in a place like this girl? Is she our daughter? He looked at Sophie with surprise and wanted to hug her. I subconsciously protect Sophie with my hands and stare at him nervously. Don't touch my daughter. Oliver exploded like a powder keg. Emily, what the hell are you doing? You know what? I've been looking for you for 4 years. I can't eat or sleep. You and your daughter are having such a hard time. Why don't you come to me? I used to think of you when I was in trouble. I couldn't stop remembering his words that made me feel bad. Emily is so stupid. What if she has a child who is also stupid? I don't want to bring unnecessary trouble, so why don't we let Emily get an operation? I looked at Oliver coldly, my heart full of resentment. Oliver was getting more and more angry, grabbing my shoulders and shaking me desperately. Back then, Isabella said you were lost. And I searched for you everywhere in New York. But you, hiding in this remote county, taking care of your daughter alone. I really don't understand. What were you thinking? He was so strong that he shook me so hard that I coughed and ended up spraying blood on his face. Sophie hit him hard and said angrily, "Badass, let go of my mom." Oliver stops immediately and grabs a tissue ready to stop my coughing blood. I tried my best to tell him, You think I'm stupid? You're afraid I'll give birth to a little fool. Aren't you the one who wanted me to get rid of the baby back then? Oliver realized what had happened in a flash. His thoughts were told to me by Isabella. Isabella even lied to him and told him that I got lost, when in fact I ran away on my own. Oliver forced me and Sophie back into the Johnson family. I feel so sorry for you and Sophie for what happened in the past. Can you give me a chance to make it up to you, mother and daughter? I sat like a statue in my wheelchair, completely unresponsive to the outside world. Sophie wanted to get the strawberries on the table, I hurriedly said. Mom told you before, you can't just take other people's things. Sophie withdrew her hand in a bit of fear, but couldn't help licking her lips, looking eager to eat. Oliver couldn't believe what he was hearing. I'm Sophie's dad, how can I say it's someone else? No, you're not, you're just sick of those stupid kids. Sophie blushes and talks back firmly. I'm not a silly little child. Oliver's last bit of face was lost on me. He told the butler to carry Sophie away and wanted to talk to me alone. As soon as they were both out of the room, he carried me to the bed and kissed me. Emily, you don't know how much I miss you, come hear my heart beat. But I'm only brother and sister to you, Brother Oliver. He kisses me harder, sliding from my ear all the way down my neck. Which reminds me of that thunderstorm night 4 years ago, when the situation was the same. He was drunk and pinned me to the bed. Isabella, I really like you especially. Brother Oliver, you've got it wrong, I'm Emily. He leaned on my neck and rolled over as if he wanted to swallow me whole. Then I saw a piece of clothing fall off, and I pushed him in fear, on the verge of crying. Brother, what are you doing? Emily is so cold. My head was a mess and I felt pain so bad. That night was the beginning of my nightmare. That's when Oliver kissed me excitedly, more passionately than the first time. I couldn't stop shaking with fear and desperately slapped his back. Oliver, why should I be responsible for the mistakes you made? Am I a good bully just because I'm an idiot? He froze, looking at me crying so hard, a little unsure of what to do. I could tell what was love and what was guilt. After I left, he realized that he actually missed me in his heart. He was just worried that I would suffer alone. If you want to make it up to us, give us some financial support. I took my daughter and left, not wanting to disturb him and Isabella. No way, I have found you guys and will never let you go. I looked straight into his eyes and felt a pain in my heart. I want to see Isabella now. Isabella heard that Sophie and I were back and came immediately. When she saw my face full of woes, she couldn't help but show a smug look. Emily, you must have had a hard time all these years being lost, right? Haha. I really didn't expect you guys to still be married after I left for 4 years. These words touched the hurt inside her, and her smile disappeared all of a sudden. She thought that if she got rid of me, Oliver would marry her. In fact, after I left, Oliver had been so worried about me that he hadn't had the heart to get married. I took Sophie in my lap and gave Oliver notice. Either you break up with Isabella and end the relationship once and for all, or I'm going to take Sophie and leave. And wish you all the happiness in the world. You can only choose between us, mother and daughter, and Isabella. Oliver looks confused, his eyes fluttering a bit. Isabella's and my hearts are in our throats, nervously waiting for his answer. Oliver, how's it going? Isn't this choice troubling? He was silent for a long time and finally whispered to Isabella. I'm sorry. Isabella cried and ran out of the room like an abandoned puppy. I thought I had won, but in fact I hadn't, because by 3 in the morning, Isabella's BFF called Oliver. Isabella's in a terrible mood. Can you go check on her? There's no point in me trying to talk her out of it. She's inhaling flour right now. And Oliver rushes out the door to change his clothes, fearing in the back of his mind that something might have happened to her. If she was playing the poor girl. Congratulations on her success. Half an hour later, I received a video from an unknown number. Oliver was hugging Isabella tightly. His voice choked and he looked on the verge of tears. He said, I'm begging you, don't torture yourself like this, okay, Oliver? I knew you still think of me in your heart, you love me. The two of them hugged tightly and kissed hard, as if they wanted to completely integrate each other into themselves. My heart tightened for a moment. A sudden heavy pain was felt. Sophie was woken up by me and reached out to gently wipe my tears. Don't cry, Mommy, Sophie will be there for Mommy. I kept telling myself that it wasn't worth it to be sad over Oliver, an immature man, but I still couldn't control myself. It was so hard to cry because I really liked him. Oliver kept watch over her all day and wouldn't let her go home for fear of her coming into contact with drugs. They went to a hot spring and ate food together and went to an amusement park. Isabella said proudly, You guys see, he still loves me the most. I deleted the video she sent and blacklisted her number. There's no need, I don't want to care about them. Sophie's condition got worse. She's always crying and saying she has a headache. The doctor said Sophie needs a craniotomy. Oliver is still a bit responsible and comes back to face this difficulty with Sophie. Isabella shouted very excitedly on the other side of the phone, We have promised to travel to Florida together. Are you going to stand me up? Don't be so agitated, my daughter is very sick and I really can't leave her. If you don't come to stay with me, I will eat all the flour. Oh. Stop doing drugs and don't hurt yourself. My patience is limited. He hung up Isabella's phone after saying that and turned to comfort Sophie. When Sophie recovers, Daddy will take you to Disney to play. Okay, Sophie could no longer speak and reached out to him to pull the hook. I watched her being pushed into the cold operating room, and my heart was very hard. Oliver held my trembling hand tightly and kept telling me, Don't worry, Sophie will be fine. I held his hand tightly as if I was grasping a life-saving straw. If anything happened to Sophie, I wouldn't know how to go on living. The operation went on for a whole day, up to 14 hours, and Sophie was finally out of danger. She reached out her little hand and gently pulled Oliver's sleeve, her eyes filled with tears. Daddy, Sophie wants to eat chocolate. Hearing Sophie call herself Daddy, Oliver was so moved that he couldn't stop his tears from flowing down. Okay, when Sophie gets well, Dad will buy her a lot of chocolates. The cozy scene didn't last long. Isabella's phone rang urgently. Oliver, come and help me. I've been kidnapped, they want me dead. Don't you dare joke like that, okay? There were loud voices on the other end of the line. Several rude men arguing. Isabella cried loudly, after which came the sound of dragging. Oliver really couldn't sit still this time and wanted to go save her. I tugged at his sleeve tightly and said hurriedly, She could be lying to you. Of course he knew that, but if it's true then what should we do? Emily, life is the most important thing. It's safer for me to go save her. He had just run out when Sophie reached out her cold little hand. She choked and asked, Where is Daddy going? Does Daddy not want me anymore? Sophie has longed for her father's love since she was a little girl, but this kind of father's love is always out of reach. I hugged her, wanting to give her some warmth and tell her that her mom is still there. She cried aggressively and said, I want my daddy? I want Daddy on the monitor. Sophie's heart rate and temperature suddenly dropped. I called out for the doctor like crazy, fearing that Sophie would collapse. The doctor rushed to resuscitate Sophie and pushed her back to the operating room. However, this time it was Sophie's cold body that was brought in. My mind was buzzing, and everything in front of me felt unreal. Sophie was as quiet as if she had fallen asleep, No matter how hard I called, she wouldn't wake up. The doctors said to me, "I'm sorry, Emily. We really tried our best." They were ready to take Sophie to the morgue. I felt overwhelmed with despair and fell to my knees pleading. "Please don't take my daughter away, I beg you." I cried in agony, like I was engulfed in endless sorrow. I really can't accept that the lively and lovely Sophie has become something that can't come back. There is no one in this world to call me mom anymore, and no one to wait for me to come home obediently. I still wanted to take Sophie to play and buy her pretty strawberry hair clips. Everything disappeared. It happened so suddenly. Oliver learned the news of Sophie's death and immediately rushed back. He was filled with doubts. How could this happen? Didn't Sophie's surgery go well? I don't believe it. Sophie could never have died. Where the hell is she? It wasn't until he walked into the morgue and saw the cold and stiff Sophie that he realized that he would never see her one last time. Isabella's kidnapping was really just a joke on her April Fool's Day. She must have been quite pleased that she managed to get Oliver to fall for it. And yet, there was a child who didn't even get to say goodbye to her father. Oliver covered his mouth, and his shoulders kept shaking as he cried. Since then, I've been sick for a while, feeling weaker and weaker, as if I'm dying. I dreamed of my mom and dad who had died many years ago. I saw Sophie in my dream, and they were both looking towards me from a distance. I desperately tried to run to them, but I fell again and again, covered in bruises. In the middle of the night, I wake up thirsty and get up to get some water. Heard the butler talking to Oliver in the parlor. "Sir, you shouldn't hurt Mtks Emily," over and over again. "We, the Johnson family, owe her far too much to pay back in this lifetime." Oliver looked up alertly and asked, "What do you mean by that?" It turned out that when Johnson family was doing business back then, they offended foreign criminals. Officer Chen and Officer Zhang were in charge of the case because people were sacrificed in the case. These two officers were my parents. Mtks Emily was young then and saw her parents killed. That's why she became unbalanced. Your parents saw that she had no one to take care of her, so they brought her to the Johnson family. The reason for getting you engaged is that they want you to take good care of her. I knew that my parents were martyrs, but I didn't know that they died because of Johnson family. I covered my mouth with my hand, worried that I would cry out and affect them. Oliver looked at the old newspaper, his heart fluctuating wildly. Emily, it turned out that her stupidity was because of the aftermath of the encounter. It was stimulated. I actually looked down on her stupidity and made her sad again and again. Uncle Chen, we Johnson family have caused a lot of harm to her. We are really guilty. The housekeeper wiped her tears as she kept saying she was pitiful. I leaned against the wall and slowly sat down on the floor, wiping away my tears with the back of my hand. Everyone thinks I'm stupid, in fact. Am I really stupid? I actually understand everything. It's just that I have some physical problems. For example, I can wet the bed and fall down easily when I am unsteady with something. And I can drool. I also remember my mom and dad who have passed away and understand the pain of living in someone else's house. I wish I could be stupid so I wouldn't have so many painful feelings. I am disgusted with everyone in the Johnson family, especially Oliver. He always leaves me whenever I need him the most and rely on him the most. Sophie left with regrets. All because of his relationship with Isabella. Uncle Chan, I'll take good care of Emily. That's right, you'll take good care of me. I actually don't care too much anymore. I buried Sophie next to Mom and Dad's grave. I hope Mom and Dad will bless and take care of little Sophie in heaven. I looked up at the rain. The cold rainwater drenched me all over. It seemed like Mom and Dad and Sophie were feeling sorry for me. I felt alone again. Oliver held my umbrella and whispered to me not to get wet. It's easy to catch a cold. Of course I couldn't get sick. I had to avenge Sophie's death. Soon, the hospital found the cause of Sophie's death. After Sophie was pushed out of the operating room, the trainee nurse dispensed the wrong medicine when giving her an infusion. Oliver was so angry that he injured the junior nurse on the spot. How dare you make such a cheap medical mistake? You killed my daughter. Prepare to go to jail? I really don't understand how such a low-level medical error could happen. How could a nurse make such a mistake? I later found the nurse and forced her to tell the truth about what happened. She said, "Yes, Isabella told me to do it," and she added, "I was so short of money that I had no choice but to do it, and I didn't want to go to jail." I was furious and in a particularly bad mood. Isabella was so cunning. She knew that with Sophie around, Oliver would have my back. Once Sophie was gone, Oliver would defer to her. The little nurse is just a scapegoat. I recorded everything she said. Give me the records of your dealings with Isabella. I can sign a letter of understanding, so you'll get a few years off your sentence. The little nurse did as she was told, but she couldn't figure out what I wanted. I wasn't going to expose Isabella for a while. In court, I signed the letter of understanding, which Oliver especially didn't understand. Why did you sign a letter of understanding? How could you let her off the hook so easily? I'm tired. I really don't want to toss this around anymore, and Oliver panics even more when he sees how down I am. I hugged Sophie's favorite rabbit doll before she was born and didn't even want to eat or drink. He ran around anxiously, urging me to eat something. If Sophie knew you were hungry, she'd be worried. Emily, I really want you to treat yourself well. I kept kissing Sophie in the photo and couldn't stop the tears from flowing down, filling the room with the sound of my crying. He slapped himself a few times, feeling remorseful. I was so stupid. I never should have gone out that night. It's so wrong of me not to have been a good father all these years. I reached out to stop him from hurting himself, and he looked up unexpectedly. It's okay. Let bygones be bygones, Brother Oliver. I'm ready to leave the Johnson family. The two short words were like a bolt from the blue and shocked him. No, I must make it up to you. We'll have a wedding and a new baby in the future, Oliver. Oliver, is it your heart that's playing tricks on you? Because of you, I was orphaned and became stupid. Because of you, my daughter died at the hands of Isabella. I've lived a miserable life. How long will you let me suffer? In the end, I agreed to marry him. After all, what he owed me, I had to get back one by one. The wedding was set for a month later, and everyone was talking about it. I wrote the invitations myself and mailed them to Isabella's house. Isabella was so angry. She called to accuse me. Emily, how did you get under Oliver's skin? Do you really deserve him? Don't subject yourself to such humiliation. I smiled and said you're more than welcome to come to our wedding next month. She's always wanted to marry Oliver, but I beat her to it. She must be very upset, right on our wedding day? Oliver and I walked down the aisle hand in hand. Isabella wore a white wedding dress and walked straight into the wedding. Oliver showed a disgruntled expression and asked. He then asked two security guards to ask Isabella out. Isabella confidently lifted her stomach, looking about 3 months pregnant. Oliver, you are responsible for me and the baby? The guests around them froze. How could the wedding turn out like this? Oliver gave me a sheepish look and I didn't look good. Really, he gave me a big wedding present, so go ahead and marry her. I wish you three a happy family forever. I took my wedding dress right off and huffed and puffed. That was the end of the wedding? Oliver grabbed my arm and pleaded in a low voice. I don't even want to marry her. I just want to marry you. The last time she pulled a prank, Oliver didn't get to see Sophie one last time. He'd been so upset about it that he'd left Isabella out in the cold for a long time. Emily, just say the word and I'll take her to surgery. I sure as hell won't let them mother and son mess with our business. I looked into his eyes quietly. Unable to speak for a moment, Oliver looked nervous, unsure of where to put his hands and feet, waiting for me to make a decision. I smiled suddenly and gently wiped the sweat from his forehead. It's not good for the Johnson family to have a child living out in the world. I could accept the kids, but not so much the mother of the kids. In the late afternoon, we had a formal negotiation with Isabella. Oliver took a bank card out of his pocket and put it in front of Isabella. Oliver, what did you mean by that? You have the baby and we'll take care of it. Tears flashed in her beautiful eyes, as if she hadn't expected this outcome. I'm telling you, I will never trade my child for money. She breaks the bank card and throws it hard at Oliver's face. I sip my tea slowly, and since you won't, I might consider giving in. I can back out and give her Mrs. Johnson's place. Isabella is happy at first, but immediately stops smiling. However, there's one condition. You have to have your child and Oliver undergo a paternity test. Can't you do such a simple thing? Oliver's eyes become very serious and frightening. Isabella couldn't help but tremble a little, and her face became a few shades paler. She wanted to get into something, and I was ready for it. I turned on the TV and played a security video. In the video, Isabella was singing and drinking and dancing in the KTV. The first part was normal, but then Isabella got drunk on the couch. She was sleeping heavily and completely unaware of what was going on around her. Many people surrounded her, and one by one her clothes were taken off and scattered on the floor. Isabella, what's gotten into her? Oliver's eyes are filled with disgust. Isabella was crying, her face covered in tears like an aggrieved child. She can't figure out who the baby's father really is. Oliver gets very angry and grabs her by the neck, asking her excitedly, "You're so calculating? Do you think I'm easy to fool? This child doesn't even know whose it is. How dare you say it's mine?" Isabella's face is covered with bruises as she desperately tries to break free from Oliver's hand. "Let me explain, Oliver." "Explain what? Don't come near me." Oliver pushes her away impatiently, not even interested in looking at her. I know, he's always been picky about his mental state. Isabella couldn't get him back anymore. She kept pestering, hugging his leg and crying. "Oliver, I really can't stand it without you. Then go ahead and suffer like hell. When you can't, I'm not going to help you clean up." In the past, Isabella's various tricks always worked. This time, Oliver no longer felt pity for her, but instead got very bored. She wiped away her tears and shouted, "Then don't regret it." 2 days later, Isabella prepares a bottle of weed killer. She sends Oliver a video call. "If you don't come, I'll really drink it." She had a look of determination and ruthlessness in her eyes, which still looked a bit convincing. I held Oliver's hand and said, "I'll go with you." We arrived at Isabella's house. She looked awful. Her hair was a mess and she looked very tired. "Oliver, I know you still blame me, but I really didn't think anything would happen to Sophie. I was just trying to play a joke on you. Where did I go wrong? And the body-picking thing? I'm a victim too." No matter how much he explained, Oliver didn't have any reaction. She angrily went up to him and hit him a few times. "You'd better say something." Oliver grabbed her wrist, his eyes full of coldness and grimness. "We're over? Can you stop pestering me? You know what, you're really annoying me." Like a sticky glue stuck to my side. Isabella is so desperate inside that she picks up the weed killer on the table and says, "Well then, I'm just going to go ahead and end this so it's quiet." She prepares to drink it, and Oliver is too late to stop it. The toxicity kicks in quickly, and it's as if Isabella has been grabbed by the throat. She clutches at her neck and makes gasping noises, turning her head to look at me. I flung myself into Oliver's arms in panic that she had actually taken the poison. Isabella's eyes widen, and she stares at me dead in the face before slowly collapsing. That's right, I switched the poison she was preparing for something else. Right when she was arguing with Oliver. How could she really choose to die when she cared so much about her life? That herbicide is simply fake. It won't harm anyone. "Isabella, there's nothing wrong with what happened to you. You have harmed my Sophie, and I will make you pay for it with my own hands." Oliver was shocked. And after a long time, he didn't react. Although he always said that he wouldn't take care of her afterlife, he helped her make funeral arrangements after Isabella died. I thought she was just trying to scare me. I didn't realize that she really wanted to end her life. How did it turn out like this? He sensed something unusual and suddenly looked up at me. "Emily, she's usually very shy. She shouldn't really be doing this." Oliver's gaze was like a light bulb shining right in my face. He guessed right, I killed Isabella. I pulled out the recording of the little nurse and gave it to him. I showed her the record of the transaction between her and Isabella as well. Oliver was pale, and his lips were trembling. Sophie's death wasn't an accident. She was deliberately killed by Isabella. I will make her pay. I will personally avenge Sophie's death. I looked into Oliver's eyes with a sneer on my lips. "Now, you may consider taking me to the police station." He was silent for some time, wiping the tears off my face. "I'm not taking you to the police station. It's all in the past." He took me into his arms again, still discussing wanting another baby with me. "Is it really all in the past? Why does it still hurt so much inside? My beloved Sophie is completely gone, and it's a pain that will never go away for me." At the moment, I leaned my head on Oliver's shoulder, pretending to snuggle up to him. In fact, I was trying to think of a way to make him get what he deserved as well. On the first 7 days of Sophie's death, Oliver held a ritual ceremony. I prepared her favorite chocolates from her life. Oliver choked up and said, "Sophie, Daddy has wronged you in this life. In the next life, Daddy will take good care of you. So go in peace." I walked out of the funeral hall with a cold smile, and it didn't take long for the hall to catch fire. A blazing fire angrily engulfed the building, and smoke kept coming out. Fire trucks arrived quickly, and Oliver barely escaped with his life. He suffered severe burns over 80 parts of his body and was taken to the ICU for resuscitation. 3 days later, he finally woke up and looked at me with tears in his eyes. "Emily, you don't seem to be the same as before." I sat by his bedside and smiled a little sadly. "Are you saying I'm not stupid anymore? I was never stupid in the first place. When I was a kid, I actually knew a lot except for some physical defects. I purposely acted silly and docile so that I could get the Johnson family's attention. The helplessness of living in someone else's home is something only I understand in my own heart. Brother Oliver, do you know what my happiest moment was? The moment I got pregnant with my baby. This is the one who is connected to me by blood, no matter how good the Johnson family is to me. They are not my relatives after all. I gently rubbed my empty stomach and remembered the surprise I felt when I was pregnant, even though Sophie's arrival may have been unfortunate. My life seemed to be filled with hope, and a little sunshine filtered through. Oliver lay in the hospital bed like he wanted to reach out and call me. Instead, I avoided it like the plague, my heart filled with disgust. But you thought I, a fool, would give birth to a little fool and thought of aborting her. I fought as hard as I could to escape from the Johnson family and from him. At that time, I only had $700 on me. On the bus, my wallet was stolen, and I was particularly anxious. The police said they could only file a case if the amount stolen was over $1,000. They also advised me to forget about it and be more careful to protect my belongings next time. That night, I cried a lot at the intersection and felt really helpless. But I didn't hold any grudges because it was all my own choice. After Sophie was born, I was in financial straits and had no choice but to steal milk powder from the supermarket. This time, the alarm went off and I was caught by the boss. He made me kneel down and then slapped me 10 times. Why don't you be a good person and become a thief? It's not worth it. There were a lot of people around to see what was going on, and some were taking videos. My self-esteem was hurt so badly, like it was shattered, that it was hard for me to recover. I wouldn't have taken the risk if I didn't have no other choice. To support Sophie, I went to work as a janitor, but people didn't think I was flexible enough. Then I went to work as a cashier, but they thought I was too old and were afraid I couldn't count money well. Oliver, I really feel stupid and I can't do anything well. Whenever I see Sophie smiling at me, I am full of energy. It doesn't matter if I don't do well, I can learn and try my best to do things well. Later, my landlord's sister recommended a job sweeping the streets. I worked conscientiously and responsibly, and I even got overtime pay. That's how Sophie ended up falling down the stairs because of poor care. I really didn't have any other way. Bumping into the porcelain was the only way I could think of. What a coincidence that I ran into your car. Oliver choked on a low voice and looked at me and shook his head. If I hadn't pissed him off, if I hadn't gone back to the Johnson family, would Sophie still be alive? Why is it that every time you offer me help, it turns out to be trouble? My mom and dad, my daughter, are gone, and with the shock in his eyes, I know the truth about his mom and dad. I put something weird in his hangnail. Emily, what the hell are you doing? Don't ask too many questions. Just experience it. I put something in his Roman 4 every day. His organs soon developed problems that baffled the entire department. Obviously, they were treating him to the best of their ability, and the patient kept getting worse. Oliver didn't complain to anyone about me, just looked at me with sad eyes. Honey, can you cook me a bowl of millet porridge? The weather is really nice. When I'm done, let's go fly a kite together. No matter how much he said, I pretended not to hear. In less than half a month, his face slimmed down and his cheekbones stood out clearly. When I washed my face, I could feel his weak breathing. It felt as if he would run out of strength at any moment and might leave this world at any time. It was really a kind of torture to be half-conscious like this, enduring the pain of organ failure. One day, Oliver seemed to have recovered some of his spirit and was in good shape. He was holding a book in his hand, sitting in the warm sunshine. Emily, when I'm gone, bury me next to Sophie. I didn't treat him right when I was alive, so I hope I can watch over her from behind. I promised, but it's still a little hard inside. No way. I'll make sure you're buried with Isabella. What an unpleasant person. I'm a little sleepy. Can you tell me a story? Sure. How about the story of the kitten and the puppy? Once upon a time, there was a homeless kitten with a bruised body. Once upon a time, there was a homeless kitten who was bruised and battered. She met a puppy who brought her warmth and helped her heal. The kitten idolized the puppy and relied on him. Later, the puppy meets an even cuter bunny. He was annoyed that the kitten was always clinging to him and only wanted to be with the bunny. Kitten was left out and could only hide under the covers and cry. She likes puppy, but is too scared to say so. She realizes that she doesn't quite deserve puppy and doesn't have the urge to pursue the relationship. Later, she accidentally slept with the puppy. In fact, she wasn't entirely unaware of it. At first, she was resisting, but then her reasoning was crushed. Since she couldn't have the puppy in this life, she would offer him the most precious part of herself. She was a silly cat, and for once in her life she was selfish, and she ended up getting hurt. All wrong beginnings eventually bring wrong results as well. Brother Oliver, do you think the kitten had it coming? His face was pale, but a gentle smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. No, the puppy was indeed ruthless. The wind blew up and he slowly closed his eyes, never to be heard from again. All the kitten's emotions were over.